Hogwarts Legacy on Nintendo Switch is one of the most comprehensively downgraded games I've seen in the modern era. Very few titles, even when ported to a low-power platform like the Switch, have been pruned and restructured to this degree. Firstly, the game's lighting has been hugely cut back. The original Hogwarts Legacy, even on Xbox One S, like we're seeing here, had some really high-quality baked lighting, mixed with good real-time lighting, and a refined screen space ambient occlusion technique. On Switch, the pre-calculated lighting has a very different appearance. Flipping back and forth through these indoor scenes, the subtle interior shading that defined prior Hogwarts outings is just totally absent here, with a much more plain look. The ambient occlusion has been stripped out and replaced with a more primitive version, which adds coarse black shade around the edges of most objects, with little respect for lighting direction. And a lot of the real-time lighting has been stripped out of the interior spaces, with the lighting from the exterior window absent from this scene, for instance. These changes really make for a dramatic shift in the character and fidelity of Hogwarts Legacy. The assets have also been harshly decimated. This can be pretty inoffensive. Notice how the globe on the left has a less finely rounded surface on Switch, for instance. But sometimes there are stricter cutbacks on some of the especially dense meshes, like the lion statues here, which look basic on Switch. A lot of the smaller bits of environmental adornment have simply been removed, like the books in the dormitory here. This courtyard on Xbox One opens up to a nice little lakeside view, but on Switch it's totally enclosed by a wall of stone. Sometimes games will throw up a bit of extra geometry to include a particularly demanding view, but this is an extreme case, and I think the area doesn't make nearly as much of an aesthetic impact as a result. Textures take a quality hit too. The fabric on this bed is a good example of the kind of texture quality you can expect when you get up close to a lot of objects in the game, as is this floral tapestry. The textures mostly look okay from a distance, though texture filtering is very poor, but up close the artwork just doesn't hold up. And a lot of the material properties in the environment have been simplified, as we don't seem to be getting a proper specular response anymore from many materials in the game, like the semi-gloss wood here. The outdoor areas in Hogwarts Legacy look totally different on Switch. There are some compromises that you'd probably expect to see. Foliage density has been decreased, for instance. This shot shows the cutbacks quite well. The trees are less numerous and have less foliage on their branches, the bushes have been simplified and scaled back, and the grass in the foreground is almost completely gone. Whether up close or at considerable distance, the foliage appears much higher quality on 1S. Shadow quality has been scaled back, and draw distance has been pulled in as well. And NPC animations now update at lower rates when distant from the player. But there are some changes I didn't really expect to see. Look at the rocky outcroppings along the shoreline here. The Switch matches the 1S in very broad strokes, but features sharply angled, blank rock faces instead of the more intricate layers of rock that we see on 1S. The developers have gone back into the game and made big art changes to keep as few polygons on screen as possible while still maintaining reasonable quality and legibility. The water on Switch doesn't resemble 1S at all either. We used to see a very nicely detailed water surface in Hogwarts Legacy, which combined crisscrossing normal maps with a bit of wave geometry and screen space reflections to create a convincing impression of gently undulating water. Now we're getting a basically featureless water surface, with reflections provided by a low-quality cube map. There are no screen space reflections here, or anywhere else on Switch for that matter. I wouldn't necessarily have expected the same water treatment as the higher-end console platforms, but the difference in fidelity is striking.